how do you kind of approach a company and tell them, I'm going to shuffle everything and we're going to rearrange the way your communication channels work to a new way?
That's a great point. What I've found working with my Japanese customers or my Japanese clients is that you don't begin with what's going to happen. You begin with
the result.
Or the result, because it's too scary, like the result, the process. So what we do is that rather than looking, for example, at that process, there's always someone behind the process. No matter how technical something might seem, there is someone behind that SAP screen. There is someone behind that slide deck who either made it or who is watching it or trying to understand it. So what we do is we try to highlight that we're looking to operate more efficiently and to operate more user centric. Now, this is very similar to a Japanese concept called omotenashi. Omotenashi is the anticipation of somebody's needs. But the anticipation of somebody's needs is very different, for example, to what we often see in Japanese companies, which is much more skewed towards politeness or respect for rules. So, you might have an example that you want to go to a bank and you might want to make an international transfer, or you might want to do any kind of which for some reason is very muzakashi and you can't do it. So you will, speak to someone, you'll speak to the person and you'll say, I'd like to do this thing. And they say, no, for these reasons, we can't do it. And then you say, okay, is there someone else I can speak to? And, they go and get their manager. And one of the first things the manager often refers to is, I'm sorry, was my employee not polite? And you think, no, she was perfectly, or he or they were perfectly polite, but they haven't solved my problem. And I'd like you to solve my problem. So what we're looking at is a shift from a blind fellowship or following of processes that are really, questionable and not necessarily proven to be efficient processes anyway, to a shift to, let's make this more human-centric, more customer-centric. The customer has never been more powerful than they are at the moment. They can so quickly share to their followers or to their friends, or they vote with their money and they say, I'm not going back to that bank, because guess what? We have options now. I don't have to go to the large banks if they're not going to give me money. I can go to, online banks, or I can go to those whether it's smaller banks, you can. And so it's about how to make your company stay relevant. And the way that you can stay relevant is that you stay closely connected to your user. And another thing I guess that I often see, while this might be true to Japan, it's also very much something that we see abroad, is that, you ask yourself, are you working for your customer or your boss? If you've got a problem and there's a real situation and you have to make somebody happy, and only one person can be happy, you either serve your customer, you solve the customer's problem, or you can solve your boss's problem. What's it going to be? Often, people will skew to their boss. But really, what we need to do is we need to shift to the customer. We need to listen to the customer, like the Japanese have for many hundreds of years. But I would say the last kind of 50 years, we've seen a bit of a shift away from that traditional model of Japanese leadership principles that I think are more relevant and more effective today than ever. So if we think about those ones from, that, like, honestly, the 1800s. I mean, obviously, yes, there was other issues, so at that time as well. That's the irony is not lost on me there. But in terms of that absolute commitment to making the best experience for someone, we've seen Japanese companies many times transition from, whether you're a pencil company, you can become a car company. Whether you started selling bicycles and you ended up, now selling MRI machines. We've seen these incredible transitions multiple times.
I mean, Toyota started as a weaver, right?
So yes, exactly. So we see that this is because Toyota moved from being obsessed with their machinery or their product to being obsessed with their customers. What did their customer want? And then we see those same companies becoming too product-centric and forgetting the reason why they were so successful in the first place was listening to their customers.